Oh, yeah, yesterday I went hunting and I got all settled in my ghillie suit and I'm waiting and I hear... I'm like, that's getting pretty close. And a guy comes by on a tractor. I don't know why he decided this was a good place to stop, but he stops 25 yards from me. He doesn't see me, and so ghillie suit working, and he gets off the back of his tractor and he starts pissing near his plow, and I'm like, sweet, I don't want to walk up on this guy and scare him, like him think I'm like a peeping Tom or something. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. Today I'm joined by a co-host and a goon, or just two goons, Jacoby Gaylord and Payton Carroll, or PDO224. What's going on, guys?
Not a lot. No, read that username down there.
Oh, Big Daddy is what Carroll called.
I was wondering who that was. I mean, there isn't one of those online right now, so I'm just kind of confused.
Self-proclaimed. Yeah.
He gets one deer down and he thinks he's Big Daddy.
He said, I'm back like I never left.
Right. I'm home.
Carol's got his, that's like that vine that was like, I think I got my swagger back, or whatever it is. Carol's got it back. But today we're going to be doing a hunt talk episode. We got a few different formats of the show that we do. We do hunt talks, which are like kind of water cooler conversations, like kind of a post recap of a hunt that we do, that we just went on. We got lives, we interview guests from time to time, and then we have our Basics of Hunting series, which is usually 25 to 30 minutes of us just talking about a single topic and getting it in run and gun style. So that's what we're going to be doing. We've all been hunting a little bit, but before we get into Carroll's buck and his success, I mean, I know it's been a while since he's had some success. What is everybody, Jake, have you been hunting very much?
No. You mentioned the basics of hunting and just how we do quick little segments. I did have a quick little question. What is a buck? I don't know. Haven't seen one in a very long time, so I'm hoping to get that question answered today. If that tells you about my hunting experience summed up the last couple of weeks.
Well, Justin texted me. He's been down hunting where we hunt on public. He texts me today and he goes, haven't seen a buck in a week. You going to find us a lease? And they have a lease down in the mountains. And I go, how much you want to spend? And he's like, well, I'm spending $1,500 divided by 3, so I'm spending $500 now. And I said, good luck. I wish you the best, soldier. Like, yeah. So
you see,
I guess it's rough down south.
I said, yeah, we can get a 20-acre lease. How many people? 4?
We can get 7 acres a pop.
Yeah.
So I guess it's been tough down in the mountains of the last week. But Carol, have you been hunting any?
Last weekend I had the success, and then we came home and I got Shelby put up a stand right here, somewhat close to the house. Just a ladder stand. I got up there, and one thing I realized is people ask me when I hunt, hey, how high do you get up there? I'm like, like 15, 16 foot. And I went and bought a 17-foot ladder stand, put it up for her. And I was like, yeah, I don't get 15, 16 foot up here. I'm a little lower than that. So
11.
Yeah, I got up there, was like, wow, man, getting up there, if you're in a saddle that high, it'd be getting a little sketchy. So, but yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I've been doing a lot more hunting the last 2 weeks than I have in probably the years combined.
When we started out like using climbers, I'd get like so high that deer have to break its neck to see me. Now I get on my saddle and I get on my second stick and I'm like, oh, I can reach my platform. I hunt. Yeah. I bet you I hunt 12 to 14 foot like most of the time. If I
can't dunk it, if I had a basketball and if I can't dunk it, if the rim was my platform, then I'm not low enough. Okay, so
that's exactly how I judge of like, that is higher than a basketball rim. So I am higher than 10 foot. But yeah, it gets, man, when we used to go hunt in the mountains and I used to take my climber, because now I just hunt out of a saddle. But when I used to take my climber, dude, no regrets. I'd get up there at least 20 foot, no harness. I'm like, whatever happens, happens. And now I get, over 15 foot. And I'm like, and it seems like a saddle, honestly, is like the safest route you can go when you're fully set up.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no like shiftiness, because I remember a lot of times, which shouldn't do this. So if you're listening to this, always wear a harness. But growing up, we never wore harnesses, right? Like when we first shot in the mountains, we all had climbers, and it's super easy to get, 20, 25 foot up there in a freaking climber. But then when you get up there, you're like, this probably wasn't worth it. I have nothing attaching me to this tree. My bottom platform isn't even attached to my top platform. So like when I go to sit down and I get up and you go to shift your weight, like reaching for stuff, it's like the top of your platform kind of shifts and you're like, okay, I'm alive, but I don't know. Sooner or later, you get to a certain point where you get so high, you're like, if I fall, this better kill me or else I'm going to have a horrible life.
There's been some times where I hit that kind of the Harlem Shake, like a little like a fake. And have you ever had your thing fall, like it's too loose and it falls like a couple feet and like where your feet, the bottom, where your feet can't reach it and you're like, I'm going to have to like just trust God on this. And you just go, you jump and you go, whoa, and then you hit it. You're like, and you have to grab your top and bring it down. Dude, climbers used to be Sketchville. It was bad. But yeah, I hunt like 12 feet now, most of the time.
Yeah. To sum it all up. So, Christy, you been doing any hunting just to catch up?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I've shot a doe since we last talked.
You were sending me some videos of seeing some two-legged animals.
Oh, yeah. Yesterday I went hunting and I got all settled in my ghillie suit and I'm waiting and I hear, I'm like, that's getting pretty close. And a guy comes by on a tractor. I don't know why he decided this was a good place to stop, but he stops 25 yards from me. He doesn't see me. And so ghillie suit working. And he gets off the back of his tractor and he starts pissing near his plow. And I'm like, sweet. I don't want to walk up on this guy and scare him, like him think I'm like a peeping Tom or something.
So how big? Like someone stop.
I didn't see that close. And I walked up to him and I said, hey. And I kind of said, hey, from 10 or 15 foot away. So he didn't think I was like sketching on him. And he's like, hey, scared the hell out of me. I was like, okay. And I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm putting in fire breaks. We're fixing to burn in December. And I'm like, okay, so you'll kind of be in and out and just kind of move on. And he said, yeah. And he goes, by the way, the private landowner called you in. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you've been hunting right here, right? And I said, yeah. He said, he called you in and said you were hunting way too close to his property because you got to be 100 yards off the property line to hunt on this piece of public. I was hunting 130. And remember that picture I sent you the other day of the guy standing like by my camera, like looking around? That was the private landowner. He went in to inspect to see, and he called me into the Corps of Engineers. And I said, well, what are we going to do about it to this volunteer? And he goes, he's a diva. I don't care. And I was like, okay. That's
well, you can tell from the trail camera picture, just the kind of the way he had his hand on his hip.
Posture.
It's like, yeah, he's a biatch. That's the most easy way to sum it up.
Yeah.
Or I guess PG.
For sure.
Oh, he supported Kamala. I mean,
that's crazy. That's such a Texas thing that like, yeah, well, we have public and we have private, but you can't hunt the private or you can't hunt the public that's really close to private though.
Am I on public? Yeah, but you can't hunt right here. Yeah, but this is public, right?
Public, you can't hunt that. You're too close to private. What?
It's the most Texas experience I've ever had. A private landowner coming onto public and going, I don't. You're too close to me, So, yeah, he got mad, and so I sat there and actually had two fawns come in, and I was like, okay, cool. I might actually get a good hunt out of this. And it gets dark right at like 5:50 down here, and about 5:30 I hear, and I'm like, no. The guy had turned around and was coming back to do the fire break with his plow one more time, and he drove by me 20 minutes before dark, legit 20 yards away, and he's just like chugging along. I'm like. And I was 2 miles deep back in there. He's like, man, you're really deep in here. I didn't think that I'd run into anybody. And I'm like, that's the point. That's why I've been seeing all these deer. So it was a blown hunt.
Well, just think if you'd have been born like, I don't know, 20 years ago, you could have bought that farmer's land beside the public for $10,000 and a pack of bubble gum. So just imagine being from the farmer's perspective. He worked really hard for that land. So therefore, you know, why even look at the land? You can't even be close.
I used to be a shoe salesman. My wife stayed at home with our 9 kids. And we didn't have much, only 500 acres. So.
I love it. Small ranch house. It's only 3,200 square feet.
Dude,
we made it work.
Yeah. Have you looked at the
really what was the mortgage on that? Outrageous, $650 a month. Stupid.
The average rate is 2.3% interest rate. I mean,
some bull shark. Yeah, rates were going up. It's crazy.
You guys just need to work harder.
Like, dude, well, the average like home in America has shrunk like 30% too. Like they used to be 2,500 square foot was average, and now it's like 1,700, and they just keep getting smaller. It's like, dude, they can't afford it. These kids are just ungrateful, man. They just don't work hard enough.
Yeah,
I had
I've
two
been
jobs
living in my 1,000 square foot house, including the garage. So that's good.
I love it. Well, let's get on a more positive note before we dive into
It's too late.
into Carol's hunt. We'll get back on the negative after the positive. But on every one of these long form videos, we're trying to start them with a verse of the day. I'm just trying to put first things first, and so I've got the verse of the day today.
Put it in a headline.
And it comes from Isaiah 40:31. You've probably seen this on a picture in your grandmother's house with a bald eagle. And the verse goes, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." And that's from Isaiah 40:31. And just to give a little bit of context, the verse highlights the power of trusting and waiting on God. To wait on the Lord doesn't mean idleness. It signifies hope, patience, and active trust in God's timing and strength. The promise is clear. When we rely on God, he renews our energy and gives us endurance to face life's challenges. So, you guys got anything to add to that? ChatGPT is really good at explanations.
Yeah, I didn't type this in ChatGPT, but you mentioned something about like it doesn't mean waiting on idleness, right? And maybe we can translate that into the deer woods where it's like, all right, if God wants me to shoot this buck, 'cause we all feel like that sometime, right? If God wants me to shoot this buck, he's going to bring it by. Well, going back with the idleness, right? Like idle hands, there's another verse on that. I'm not too scripture savvy, but there's another verse where it's like idle hands.
It basically leads you to poverty is what it is. It's like it's on your fed.
So
yeah.
Therefore, it's like, okay, if I have idle hands and I don't try to, go make the move to make this happen, what I'm trying to say is it takes two to kind of tango on that, where he can do his part, and it's like, all right, I'm setting the path for you, but if you don't take the initiative and try to walk down that path, then you will be led to poverty, or you will be buckless, or you will be, whatever. But Carol, what do you think?
We actually, I wasn't feeling too hot this morning, so we went to Life Church here at the house. And that was actually Craig's message today was, what if God's being too slow? And he pretty much, to sum it up, he just said, hey, he's working. Just, he's, in the background, you might not see it, but he's working. So
that's a good point.
Hang in there like Swimmer.
There you go.
I made that part up, but it would have went well today with what.
Well, all I'm saying is he's being too slow on giving me a buck because he's blessed you too. Hey, Lord, I'm still waiting. So what's up?
he's gonna renew your strength, Jake. Maybe weak now, but he's gonna renew it. I think that sums it up good. I mean, we're an active participant in God's will. It's like I don't think sitting on the couch eating Cheetos and being like, God, bring me a job. It's like, hey, he's a miracle worker, but he's not going to kick in your front door, hit you with a job application in the face. So, but run and not grow weary, walk and not faint. I think it just reminds me that our strength comes from the Lord. So that's hopefully an encouragement. And we've been getting some feedback from the messages that, especially on Instagram, that people are enjoying the verses of the day. So if you guys don't enjoy these, just keep listening. Maybe Lord's going to break through on you one of these days. But we appreciate the feedback. So if you guys do enjoy it, shoot us a message. If you hate it, keep listening. That's what we'd say. With that, let's get into the hunt talk. So one of us has had some success with a buck with antlers in the last couple weeks, and it was a man that looks like Mr. Ballin down here on the bottom of the screen.
Dude, that's literally who I was pulling up at this exact moment.
Down.
It's his lookalike. Yeah, that's literally his lookalike.
It's Carol.
It is.
A more handsome Carol, but yeah. Yeah, look, ex-Navy SEAL, it's what it says.
Oh, yeah.
Told y'all.
Anyway,
Anyways.
Carol. So, Carol and I had this lease that we've been hunting for a few years, and to say that Carol had a rough go of it last year on the lease would be, I think, an understatement. But Carol, after what the year that you had this year and going into the lease, what was your kind of expectations for hunting this spot? Because you didn't end up going to the lease at all in October, and you said, I heard you say more than a dozen times, when he shows up consistently, I'll go. Until then, no, I'm staying on.
Yeah, to sum up last year in a few words, if my tree stand was a little higher and I knew it would finish the job, I would have jumped. But it wasn't high enough, so I decided to stick around and give it another year. We'll start off by this. The lease it's 5 hour or 4.5 hours away from me now, to where it's doable in one day, but you kind of don't want to just go down there to give it, hey, I'm going to give it a hunt or two and then come back. It's time and it's money. Money was an issue, just going there and gas, coming back, and if you want to go back the next weekend. But we didn't have anything really consistent. Turns out, long story short, I think our camera was too far away from one of our feeders, and then the north feeder I think it was spitting out too much corn. It was too far away. And also our memory card had ran out. It's one of those things that Christian and I were talking, that every year that I've been on the lease, it's always something. Like the feeder doesn't work, the camera went out, the camera fogs up, it's too wet. It was always something.
Coon unplugs the solar panel.
Oh, yeah. Coons are crazy. They're crawling over everything, and just stuff doesn't ever work. Like, it's never just go in there, at least for me. It's never just go in there, hunt, in one morning and shoot a buck and get out. I had my chance last year to do that, but of course I blew that. So I can't say that I haven't had the opportunity to do that once. But yeah, we didn't have anything too consistent coming in. We had 2 or 3 deer that were kind of lookers that we were thinking, okay, hey, any of these bucks come in. The 11-pointer that I've been chasing for, last year and this year, earlier on in the year when I did go. Then we had one come across the river that I ended up shooting this year. And then, there was another one. He was the triple main beam buck. He wasn't super big, but he's just a cool buck. He's probably not enough to shoot, realistically. He's probably 4.5. He's one of those deer that if you pass, next year he might be you never know what you're going to get next year. It's really not worth shooting this year. It's nothing that we don't already have, and the potential is there. And then the funky buck. He is all messed up. He could be 4.5. I think he's a 5.5-year-old deer, but we've had him, I think, the last 2 years too, to where he's not going to be anything giant, but he's a cool buck. But yeah, nothing was coming in too consistent. I just remember telling you guys, like, man, it's too far. It's too far. It's too much time. And the limited thing that Dave and I talked on for over an hour the other day is it's a 4.5-hour drive, but the entire time you're worried about the wind. And the wind can change at any time. The weatherman can give you kind of a heads up. But if you get down there and the wind changes, you might say, hey, I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to hunt. But if it changes Monday evening, then you're going back home.
If you guys are anything like us, you love being in the deer woods and chasing big bucks. But there's another part of you that has that itch to chase other big game species.
If you've ever dreamed of chasing black bear, mule deer, or moose, Alberta, Canada is the land of opportunity for these adventure-style hunts.
Each year, hundreds of first-time visiting hunters from around the world come to Alberta for the options, quality, and accessibility that the land offers.
With over 1,800 Boone and Crockett entries and endless possibilities of taking multiple species on a single trip, Alberta is truly a paradise for a big game hunter. This is why we partnered up with the Alberta Professional Outfitters Society. To check it out, go to apos.ab.ca and click Find an Outfitter. From there, you can browse all the different big game species and hunting styles that fit with what you want out of the hunt.
Or you can send a free hunt inquiry through the Follow the Lead tool, and the outfitters who have what you are looking for will reach out to you directly.
So make sure to check out apos.ab.ca to learn all about hunting in Alberta and get connected to the right outfitter for you.
Where do you draw the line, and you got to pick your poison of when do I take my gamble, because I only have so many dollars to spend. So when do I spend them?
Yeah. Well, kind of to reiterate on that hit list for a while, you listed I would say a pretty good hit list. Most people will be very pumped to have the quality of hit list. It was lower than what we were expecting, because last year there was and I'm not exaggerating, there was probably 10 plus bucks that were like, yeah, I'll shoot any one of these.
All 120s. Yeah. And half of them were 4.5. You're like, oh, wow. We're going to have 6 or 7, 8 points that are going to be, they're low 120s. They could be mid 130s next year. We're going to have maybe 7 of them.
Yeah. But that 11, you've kind of been playing cat and mouse with him for a while. And the 11 ended up, the first time we saw that buck, and I think he's a 5.5-year-old buck. The first time we saw him, he was standing next to the 6x7 that I shot in 2022. So I'm going to take partial blame for his education, because he was a 3.5-year-old buck standing next to that other one when I shot it. And he ran off, and I didn't see him very much again, that rest of the year. Last year, you played a lot of cat and mouse with that buck, though.
Dude, I don't even want it. It makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck how frustrated I get. I went for a week and a half. I was down there for like a week and a half. I mean, almost, how many days was it, dude? It was over a week when I went down there, and it was like first morning, okay, he's at the other feeder. Second morning, okay, he's at the other feeder. I'm like, third morning, all right, I'm going to this other feeder. He's been there for 2 days in a row. Boom, he comes back to the feeder I was originally sitting at. Then I was like, all right feeder. He was there 10 minutes before I got there and he was gone. Or, 10 minutes after daylight. And it was just back and forth of like, man, this dude has to slip up. I just need him to slip up one time and he just never would. I mean, he just knows. He just knows.
He's smart. Yeah, he's a smart cookie.
Well, he gave you a run for your money. What was it, like the first week of November or something like that? He was daylighting every single morning, like 6:33 on the dot. And then you went down there and you actually laid eyes on him for the first time, right?
I did. So that was the second time, the second go around. So the first go around, I went down there. I don't remember how many days or how many hunts I had. I want to say I had 2 or 3 hunts. And then, the thing about it is, for a working man, I'm not saying I work a lot, but it's got
working man's. What?
For a hardworking like myself, I got to be available. Realistically, it's tough to go down there, when the right wind is, let's say the right wind is Tuesday and Wednesday. It was tough. So I knew that I didn't have a lot of time the first time I went around there. But the second time I went down on Sunday, and I hope, Jason or Tyler's not listening to this, but I brought my work stuff and thought I'm going to stay until Wednesday or Thursday and just work throughout the day and give it early mornings and late evening hunts.
Joe, clip it, send it to Vitalik and Carol.
Vitalik.
Good luck.
I'll give you addresses. You might get me a big favor, and I might just get to hunt. Get fired, and I'll get to hunt a lot more. I won't complain about it. So, yeah, the second trip I go down there, it had a lot of rain. I knew going down there was going to be a big gamble. The 11-pointer had been on camera daylighting for like 2 or 3 days in a row. I thought, all right, I gotta go now. Like, these guys are giving me so much crap. I don't know. I gotta really go. So I went ahead and went, and they had a lot of rain, and I emphasize and I complain about it so much, but these aren't gravel roads. These are, people say dirt roads. Most of the time don't mean dirt roads. These are dirt roads. So 1-inch rain is, you're not getting anywhere on these roads. But anyways, the time had passed enough that I was able to get down there. I almost get stuck. I'm just trying to get to the blind. And I don't know how much rain Jake said that they had, but it was a lot. I get all the way to about 300 or 400 yards away from the stand. And normally I just drive all the way up to the tee. It's surrounded by trees. It's parking another 100 yards away. It's not going to make a difference because if the wind's coming from that way, you don't hunt anyways. Coming from the south, parking on the south. But anyways, they had so much rain that the river had rose and it had backlogged this creek to where I got there and I'm in a panic of, I've got to be in the stand in 20 minutes. So I walked down like 200 yards to the west to see if I can get around this. I was like, okay, so the creek goes all the way pretty much back to the road. I have to go through this if I'm going to want to hunt. So I thought, okay, I always come up with some bull crap. So what can I come up with? I looked in my truck and I'm like, I have trash bags. So I literally take my shoes off. I have my boots and my shoes. I put trash bags around my legs. I put my shoes on. I'm like, well, I guess I'm just wearing boots for the next few days. Put my shoes over the trash bags. Put my bow resting on my neck with my bag. Hold the trash bag up, walking real slow and get through it and keep my feet dry. So I get on the other side, put my boots on, walk into the stand. And at this point, I'm so mad. I'm like, God, I'm so just stuff's not working. I get up there in the stand. I finally get set up. I'm like there probably right when I can shoot, legal light probably on the minute. Finally get set up. And I kid you not, 1 minute after I get set up, here comes the 11-pointer coming in. I was like, dude, I'm still out of breath. I'm not even in shape to pull back. So I start getting stuff ready, and here he comes. It was still like, I knew it was him. It was good enough to see, okay, this is him. This is the deer. This is the one that I'm after. But it was still too dark for me to comfortably make a shot because, as you guys may know and the audience may know, I got some Vietnam flashbacks of what happened last year on shots. I thought, all right, I'm going to give it a few minutes. Of course, I'm getting ahead of the game of like, I'm going to let him get to the feeder. I'm going to let him stay there for a few minutes and all of this, X, Y, Z. And then he walks about 5 more yards. He's probably at like 25 yards, coming straight to me. He lifts that head up. I have 0 wind. I mean, 0 mile-an-hour wind. It is not moving at all, which is the first time I think probably ever in history there where we hunt. And he threw that head up and he thought, no. So he just kind of walked around the feeder, never really gave me a good shot. And then he was like, no, something's wrong. He's here. He knew I was there. So I let him get about 100, 120 yards away. And I'm like, well, this is it. I'm going to try just a little faint grunt. I'm just going to try it. He's not coming to the feeder. He already knows something sketchy. So why not try the Hail Mary pass? I gave him a little grunt and he took off running. I thought, oh my gosh, dude, you got to be kidding me. No telling what's going to happen now. But anyways, I end up setting that morning out and I had a bunch of smaller bucks and doe come in, but never saw anything again for the rest of the morning.
Where'd you put your trash bags?
Well, I left them hanging there in the tree because I thought, well, oh well. No, I put them. So when I crossed the creek, I left them on that side of the creek, and I had to go back across the creek when I was done hunting. So they're actually still in the back of my truck.
So you have the buck that you're going after. You sit down. You're still out of breath, but I'm sure you've got a jacket on. This is textbook Carol. He's wearing way too many layers. So I know you're sweating, and you're like, and you look up and you see the buck that you're after. Like, was he coming in straight from the north, or where'd he come from?
Northeast, where every deer. I don't know why. I just have this envision that every deer is going to come straight from the north. I don't know why, but they always come from that next ridge or the next set of trees to the east. Every buck pretty much, except the one I shot 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, the funky one. He came straight from the north, but almost every buck that I ever see comes from the northeast.
So how many more times did you hunt during that trip?
I just hunted that evenings when I ended up getting the buck. So I didn't see anything. I went back into town. I was pretty upset. That's one of those things that
that's an understatement.
I was really mad. Not like I even remember calling Dave. I was like, I'm not mad at anybody or anything. I'm just mad. Like, I've been chasing this buck for 2 years and he comes in and he catches my thermals or something. So
that's the first time anybody's laid eyes on him in 2 years. Like we've seen him on camera. We haven't seen him in 2 years since that one day that I shot the other buck.
Yeah, dude, he just knows. I'm telling you, he just freaking knows. I mean, when I think that he's going to be a buck that he will slip up, when Jake goes in there on a good wind, when a cold front coming in, he's going to slip up. He does come in daylight. I mean, he comes in the daylight on the days that you're like, oh, this day is going to be awesome. Like, I should be out there hunting. I can't, but I should be. Boom. Middle of the day out there. So, like, he's patternable on the days that he should be there. He is. But it's just, like I told you guys the last 2 years, like, hunting is just not on. I just don't have the luck. I have to make crap work. It's just never the luck.
Well, I think that's about 99% of the hunting population if your name isn't Christian. So that's just what we summed up to be.
Do you
disagree? Do you disagree?
No, I'm just God's favorite. That's
okay. It's seeming like it. It's seeming like it. Thanks, God. But no, Carol did call me, and it was almost like trying to talk someone off of a ledge. He was like, dude, I'm probably just going to head home. Like, I'm done. Like, I seen him. He busted. Like, and at the time, to be on Carol's side a little bit, there hasn't really been another buck in there besides that funky buck that has been relatively consistent. And the most consistent, biggest buck in there, you should have watched him kind of trot away from you and kind of know something's up. And you're just like, well, damn. Like, and you're also right. Like, you really can't hunt it if it isn't some sort of like northern wind. And ever since I've really been paying attention to that, those are far and few between, especially down there. It's like, dude, like you can never get them. And so after taking all that and you were like, yeah, I'm probably going to head home after this morning hunt. I don't know what got you to kind of back up off the ledge, but my thinking was, hey, you drove all the way down there, at least hunt this evening. And if you still don't want to stay the night and hunt tomorrow morning, then like at least hunt this evening. You drove all the way down there, so you might as well get the most bang for your buck, right?
Yeah, I did. A good nap and some food really changed my mind. I went back and took about so I left like late that Saturday. Was like, I'm gonna wait a little bit later and watch the OU game. I don't know why I look forward to
Yeah,
that.
that's a mistake.
Why do I even look forward to that? But I was like, but if I get on the road, I have something that I can stick. I don't watch the game and drive, but if I did,
For insurance
if
purposes, I don't.
make that drive a lot better. So that was my thinking. And I got down there late on the road, long drive. As soon as I get there, I go to sleep and I'm wake back up a few hours later, got a, 25-minute drive in there. And I was just tired. So after all that, I'm tired. I'm hungry. I have to walk through a creek. I don't even know how I'm going to get a deer out if I shoot a deer. I'm going to have to swim, I guess, at this point. So, yeah, there was a lot stacking up against me, but I ended up deciding to stay.
But you had an encounter with that funky buck. Like, there was a part of the story that you left out. Like, you went down there a couple weeks before, and you'd seen that funky buck from that stand, right?
That was that in the morning or in the evening? I believe it was in the morning. No, it was, okay. So when I went down the first time, I hunted a morning and then an evening. And then I think that I hunted another morning. So I think I had 3 hunts. And it was that second morning that I ended up staying where the wind was okay. It was out of the east. And then it started changing to southeast. And it started, at like 8:30, it was south. Yeah, all right, I'm here. I'm going to give it another hour and a half. And that funky buck came in and he was really quick to once he got anywhere remotely close to that where that wind could have been blowing, he threw that head up and he was out of there. And that was when I was like, okay, time to leave. I'm just going to go ahead and leave, start packing up. And then 2 doe were coming in downwind of me. I thought, man, if these things are going to do it, I'm going to shoot one because there's no way it's going to work. But if they end up coming back to the feeder, if they end up coming to the feeder, I'm going to shoot one. And sure enough, they came to the feeder. They smelled me the entire time. Like, how
they're greedy.
Dude, they are so greedy. They would just lift their head up and just take off running. Get about 10 yards, stop, look around, and then come back to the feeder. I'm like, okay, once they settle down, I'll pump one. So I pumped one, and then she ran like 15 yards. I backed the truck up on in there, loaded her up, and got her out of there. That's the day. Just said, hey, I shot a doe, just giving you a heads up, but I was in and out in 20 minutes. But
oh man. Yeah, so you'd spent a trip up there, you seen the funky buck, you came back the next time, you had the 11 basically run out of your life. Where does it go from there? So Jake talked you off a ledge.
Just to give a little context, I'm showing the big camera first. So this right here is, y'all can't even see it, is the funky buck that Carol's talking about, right?
One is hey, don't shoot that deer. He's probably only 3.5, 4.5. There's
I know which one you're talking about, yeah.
I've seen him every single hunt. He's greedy. He's hungry. That boy comes to eat in daylight. Like, he's going to be, dude, when he is 5.5, he's going to be 230 cows because he's on the feeder every freaking day. To answer your question, well, thank God it only goes uphill from there. I ended up going back out there. This is not an eating spot, by the way. Like, this is just the deer will go.
It's like a flyby spot back when they're coming off the big wheat fields at night. Or night.
In the morning, it's kind of like, hey, we'll stop by, get a little corn, and then we'll go bed. Maybe swing back by, maybe in the evening, and then go back to the wheat fields. In the evenings, they're going to head probably just straight west and go to those fields, or a little more north and go to those wheat fields. So why even come south? Anyways, not typically an evening spot. So I go on back there and I thought, well, I'm here and I have a good wind. So by golly, I'm going to give it a shot. A lot of deer activity. Saw a bunch of deer. Finally, it's crazy the difference when you see a mature body compared to just the normal deer body. As I look through the trees, and Coop, my brother, used to always like, man, you got to see a deer before they see you. You got to see a deer before they see you. Well, obviously I know that, but if I wasn't looking right where he peaked, like, dude, he was smart. There was already deer on the feeder. He kind of came looking through those trees. He kind of looked around a tree, stuck his head through a little bit of brush and looked. And if I wasn't looking right at him, because I saw his body and I thought, okay, mature buck, boom, grab my bow, get stood up, turn the camera on. Saw exactly where he was coming from. He came from the northeast, and he just sat there and watched those other deer on the feeder for like 2 or 3 minutes. And I didn't know what buck he was at first, because when I saw the mature body, I'm like, mature buck, I'm shooting. I don't care if he's 60 inches. Like, he's old, he's big bodied, I'm shooting him. And then once he finally stepped out, I thought, oh my gosh, this is the biggest buck we have. I think what was he? He was like an 8-pointer or a 9-pointer at the time that I shot him. But he's real, I would say, real tall framed, fairly wide, 17.5 inches wide, I think is what we had him at. But his rack, instead of like going up or, in, his rack just goes like straight in to where you're like, wow, it gives it that perception of he looks a lot bigger than he really is as far as width wise. So I saw him coming in. I thought, oh my God, of course my heart is pounding out of my chest at this moment. I knew that, hey, it's like a 20-yard shot on the dot. I've got like 4 deer out there. I had last year when I went in there and there were so many deer off the feeder. I'm like, I can't pull back. I just don't get to shoot. That's just not possible. I just have to watch because there's 10 doe on here, and I'm not even going to try. So he was coming in, and there was four or five deer there. I finally got to the feeder. I wasn't ready to shoot. He gave me a shot as soon as he walking to the feeder. I just wasn't ready yet. Let him get set up, get some corn in his belly. Finally, after it seemed like he was there for 30 minutes, but he was only there probably for 2 minutes. He finally gave me a shot. Went to pull back. By the way, there's still zero wind. It's zero wind, so my bow gets all the way back to my anchor point, about 99% of the way there, and then it creeps just a little bit to where it threw him off, where he heard it. He took off running about 10 yards, stopped, turned around, and looked around, and I was just like, he's looking straight at me and looking around and looking in my area, and I'm just sitting there holding my bow back like, well, I can't shoot, and I'm starting to get tired. I sit there and hold my bow back for a little bit.
45 pounds is a lot to hold back. Yeah.
It is. Well, it is when your heart is pounding. You're like, this is the biggest front I've ever been pulled back on before. So
just to stop you real quick, after watching that 11 run off that morning, is there like any now or never type of mentality going on through your head? Like, especially now after seeing him kind of trot away, is it like, okay, I got to get a shot off right now? Or are you kind of still trying to be somewhat composed? Like, what's going through your mind?
I see what you're saying. A sense of urgency of like, don't let this freaking happen again. Yes and no. Yes, I wanted to shoot the deer and I could have forced a shot, but geez, after what happened last year when I shot paddles right in the butt, I was like, I'm not making this mistake. I would have been really upset and really, really mad at myself for not trying to shoot, because you can't kill a deer if you don't shoot. Sometimes you just have to be really aggressive. But also what ate at me more than anything after shooting the deer last year was like, dude, I would have been a lot better / forgiven myself a lot more if I just wouldn't have shot. If I just wouldn't have shot and been like, well, he's still in there, better luck next time. At least I get another shot at him at some point if he ever shows up. But yeah, I was not about to force. But yes, there was a sense of urgency. Like, I got to be quicker on my feet, ready to go, but I'm not forcing anything.
Do you guys think that can be a learned trait? Like, let's say, 16-year-olds listen to this podcast right now and they're like, all right, these guys are telling me always wait till the right opportunity to squeeze off a shot. And if it doesn't feel right, you probably shouldn't take the shot. But on the other hand, we also kind of spout out just like Carol just did. And I'm guilty of it too. It's like, sometimes you just got to make stuff happen. Right. And so like, do you think that can be a learned trait, or do you think that's just something that has to do with you're just going to have to go through the ringer a couple of times to kind of tell the difference between one or the other when it comes to like shot selection?
I think everybody's situation is different. I mean, you guys know how much I preach about. You got to have luck, dude. You got to have luck on your shot. You have to. Like, nothing just sometimes just doesn't work out. Going through the ringer sucks, but that was my biggest learning experience. Look, when I shot paddles in the buck, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it for everyone to hear. Was it ethical? No, I can make that shot. Like, I practice and practice and practice. If I were to go back, would I have shot again knowing what I know now? No, but if you put me back in that spot not knowing, I probably would pull the trigger again because I could make that shot. Now, it hurt my ego / like, not even my ego so much of knowing like, man, I just would be an animal. I could have done better. I could have done better. The deer's, he's dead. He is dead. So long story short, I don't think it's just a trait you're going to pick up and learn, especially, everyone's situation being different of, hey, I've got a feeder in front of me. I'm not afraid to say it. Like, dude, I've got a feeder right there in front of me. It's at 20 yards. So like, he's going to come back. He's going to eat. If you're somewhere on public land and you just like, if you think you can do it, do it. If you think you can, if you're like, oh, this is going to be some bull crap before you do it, you probably should. You probably should, like, if you're like, this probably isn't going to work, but I'm going to try it. You probably shouldn't pull the trigger, and sometimes it maybe does, and sometimes it maybe doesn't. But I've also been on the crappy end of that ordeal, so that's just my advice.
Yeah, I think you can learn. I think you can learn composure. I think you absolutely can. I think there's some people that never do though. Like they just choose not to.
You can learn it, but do you think someone like has to go through the ringer?
Yeah, you can't learn it without having experience.
Okay.
There's no way. Like if you watch a guy who's composed, who just is, it's like, how are you not? How do you keep it together when this moment happens? And it's like
basically, if they watch me hunt, yeah,
exactly. If they want to see a stone cold killer, yeah, but it's only because those people have messed up every situation they've ever. If like you see a situation, it's like, well, I remember I messed this up, and I'm not going to do that again. It's just experience. Like, where does confidence come from? It comes from experience, and you can only get experience by messing up. So I think you can only learn composure by being not composed. So like you can't. I don't think it's something you can just like a mentality, right? Of like, I only take good shots and I make good shots. I'm a guy who makes good shots. I practice a lot. It's like, cool. I've practiced a lot too and shot him and not killed him before too. So I think it's just experience. Don't you think?
I mean, I think so. I mean, because it seems like the older I get, the more I kind of like it strikes me that I'm like, oh yeah, this is somewhat true. But you can be told something. It's almost like a little kid. You can be told no 50,000 times, and you're just like, but why? But why can't I touch that hot stove? It's like, because it'll burn, it'll hurt. All right, I won't do it. And then you end up trying to do it. No, stop, keep slapping your hand away. And all of a sudden you do it, and you're like, damn, that kind of hurt, but it finally clicked. And I think hunting, and especially shot selection, is kind of that in a way. It's a super dumbed up version, but it's the way I understand it. So
how are you going to learn what shot not to take until you shoot one in the ass and you're like, damn, that sucks. Like
yeah, it didn't feel too good.
I've shot him like before in front of the shoulder and the neck and had it work out before, but
well, it's almost like a different kind of feeling where it like makes you sick to your stomach. Not just because you made like you are like hurt about your ego and your skill about heart punching it, but it like there's like this pit in your stomach where you're just like, I just now hurt that animal right there, and that thing's probably going to suffer now because of what I did and my childish behavior, thinking I'm either better than I am or just whatever it is. It's like there's that sinking pit in your stomach, and it's just like after that, like I don't know about you, I had that same sinking pit on not only like bad shots, but also when everybody's been guilty of when that little fawn walks out and you're like, oh, that's a doe. There ain't no other doe around it to compare it to. So looks like a doe. You end up shooting it, and it's like bigger than your golden retriever, and you're just like, not going to do that again. Like it makes me want to sell every piece of hunting equipment I own, right? But like again, trial and error.
Yeah, you can't.
And I'm sorry, that ain't going to build confidence. We had a comment saying that apparently we can't poke fun at ourselves for saying stuff like that. But yeah, anyways, continue.
He finally gave me a shot broadside, and like I said, he heard my bow creak back, and he took off about 10-15 yards, and this is all on video, unfortunately. On a tree branch, so it's, you can see what's going on, but it's not 4K best clarity. But anyways, could I have shot him right then and there? Yeah, he was fairly quartered away, and I'm like, nope, Vietnam flashbacks, not doing this, not doing this again. He was a shootable deer right then, but I'm like, dude, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not going through what I did last year again because I'm getting greedy. So he sits there for, I would say, probably like 1 to 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden he takes off running. I'm like, okay, what's going on? He's not winning me. He didn't win to me. I hear some, rustling coming back from the northwest of me, and I thought, dude, I know why he's running. That freaking 11-pointer's coming in. That's the first thing that I thought, is this 11-pointer's coming in, that he is going to scare off every freaking one of these deer. Then there's probably a few little, there's 2 or 3 other small bucks there at the feeder, and they kind of look, and they've got their tail up, and they take off running. And at this point, every deer takes off running. I'm like, okay, well, I don't have confidence this is the 11-pointer anymore, because something's not right. Sit there and wait for another probably about 30 seconds to a minute, and a coyote comes out, and he is like 15, I mean, right directly pretty much underneath me. I mean, he's like 4 or 5 yards away. I thought, this freaking coyote just ruined my hunt. It's done. Like, it's done. He scared off the deer. Well, the deer only ran like 35, 40 yards and kind of stopped and turned around and looked at him. And I thought, I'm like grabbing my bow and about to pull back and shoot this coyote because he's pissed me off. I was like, well, at least I get to pull the trigger. But I was like, what good is that? I mean, what good is that going to do for me? It literally doesn't do any good. Because now if they do want to come back, they're going to see me shoot it, and there's going to be a dead coyote underneath the stand if I hit. So I sit there to let it all play out, and 2 of the smaller bucks kind of lower their head. Don't charge the coyote, but kind of like run him off of like, hey, we're not leaving. You get out of here. So the coyote turned and ran off. The bigger buck saw that those smaller bucks were coming back in, and it gave him the confidence. Man, he was smart. He sat there and watched all. He was the first deer out of there, so he was kind of what I'm going to call him a poon.
Or smart.
Clip that if you need to. He saw those other bucks come in, gave him the confidence to come back in, and he was sitting there underneath the feeder, and he was getting so greedy that his rack was hitting the feeder and going boom, 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 and it just kept making that noise. And I'm like, dude, this is crazy, but dang, I just need this guy to step up and turn broadside. So he sits there and eats for about 2 more minutes, and then he finally starts walking away. And I thought, well, this is my chance. So I pulled back, and the bow didn't creak this time, and I had to go meh, like loud the first time, and he just did not care. And finally went meh, like really loud. And he stopped and turned and looked at me, and I was like, "You're freaking done, dude. It doesn't get much better than this." And I pulled the trigger and told myself a million times, "Do not launch this freaking arrow." I'm so bad about like when I go shoot a target, like I'll shoot good. Shoot one time, catch myself trying to watch my arrow. I'm like, why? Why did I do that? I've been shooting good. Why do I do that? So I didn't watch my arrow, heard the smack. I just remember because everything happened so fast, and you get that blurred blackout visual after. You're like, what just happened? What just happened? But I remember thinking it looked good. It could have been a little low. It wasn't white hair, white belly hair low, but it could have been a little low. But it seemed good. Hey, by God, I didn't shoot a deer freaking high this time. So I'm like, I'm in the chips. I'm in the chips. So I went back and watched the video, and of course the video isn't like super blurry, but it's not crystal clear by any means. And I kind of like...
Listen, guys, we wouldn't be able to do the podcast if it wasn't for you all. So we just want to say that you guys are greatly appreciated, and thank you for following along each week.
And speaking of support, we are partnered with Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, Matt and Chase are great, down-to-earth guys, and they make some of the best saddle hunting products out there. Whether you're looking for a set of climbing sticks or a mobile, lightweight, hang-on tree stand, or maybe you're even a one-sticker.
You mean tree Pilates?
Yes, tree Pilates. If you've been to the grocery store or the gas station lately, you know that Uncle Joe is doing his absolute worst to take all your money. That's why we need hunting gear that lasts year after year. And trust me, I've been rocking the same Out on a Limb Shakar climbing sticks for 4 years and the Ridge Runner 2.0 saddle hunting platform for a few years as well. This gear is built to last.
We can confidently say that Out on a Limb is the best bang for your buck.
And it's the best gear if you want to deflate a big old buck.
Ooh. Make sure you use code HNTA15 at outonilimb.mfg.com for 15% off anything on their website.
So if you can show them the same support that you guys show us, please go to outonilimb.mfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast.
I sent the video out, in the group chat. I asked my family members, and they're all like, well, you just shot that deer in the heart. What is going, why are you worried? And Aaron texted me on the side and said, Vietnam flashbacks from last year or what, dude? He's like, he just smoked them. So I called Jake and talked to him and sent him the video, and Jake's like, called me immediately. Like, that deer's already dead. He's already dead. But anyways, to get back to the story, I got down, I would say, I said 10 minutes, but it was about 7 minutes. I went back and compared the photos to just look at my arrow. I wasn't going to go look for the deer or anything, just to go get my arrow. And pretty much when I shoot, I lose sight of the deer. I'm like, time to go back to the truck because I'm going to do something stupid. I'm going to start looking. I'm going to get greedy. So I went down and grabbed my arrow and turned and looked over, and about 60 yards away, he was just standing there. And I thought, he was like 60 to 80 yards away, somewhere in there. I thought, oh my gosh, he is still up and he is still alive. So I kind of just watched him, and he didn't see me by any means. He just kind of turned to walk back away straight straight away from me and was walking really, really slow where I'm like, he's a dead man walking. Get my arrow, looks good, go back, get some dinner with Jake and all the other guys that came back to help me. Luckily the water went down, so we drove back in with the side-by-side and we got on his trail. And at first we had like almost zero blood, and it got a little better. Then it got like really good. Okay, really, really good. And then he ended up falling over and, expiring right there 20 yards from when I last saw him. They're like, yeah, he didn't live another minute after you had seen him.
So okay, just to put it in perspective, we had never really seen this deer until late October. We had one picture of him from across the river who was sent to us from a friend, and we were like, that's a really good buck. And then he came in late October, and we were like, I told you, I was like, that's that buck from across the thing. And you're like, no, it's not. And he was missing, both of his eyegars broke off, missing half a 2 and half of a 4 on one side, which didn't make him as easily identifiable. But what were you thinking when you walked up on him?
I was like, oh my God, this thing is huge. He is freaking huge. What really stinks is right off the bat, it was kind of that golden, like everyone wanted to say it, but no one wanted to say it. It was just like, and finally was like, somebody was like, if he wasn't broke, I'm like, there it is. I knew, dude.
Yeah.
It makes you sick, dude. It makes me like, don't get me wrong, I'll never forget it because of the story. And the deer is just, he's big. I mean, I've got a deer on the wall I shot with my rifle, like 5 or 6 years ago, and he's broke. And if he wasn't broke, he's a freaking giant. He's a giant 8-point. I mean, touching 140s as an 8-point, close to it. Probably wouldn't be 140, but super close. And he's the same way of like, well, people are like, oh, he's missing 8-9 inches. I was like, no. No. He's probably at least 12, realistically, probably 14 or 15 inches. And people are like, what? Like, no. And I showed them a picture. It's like, dude, his 2s are missing 5 to 6 inches alone on his 2s. His brow tines were 3.5, missing both of those. No scoreable brow tines. I don't think they're going to score. Dave scored it and gave me pretty much an inch on one, but I'm missing 7 inches from brow tines, every bit of 5 to 6 inches on his 2s. So 12, and then his 4s broke off probably 3 inches. I mean, dude, he's missing.
Yeah.
He's missing 50 inches. I mean, he's a 150-inch deer.
Well,
so
that's the thing is like he has what we always talk about on the podcast of like a deer with presence, right? Like regardless of all the tines and everything like that, he's a framey sucker, right? And Carol came to my house and showed me his buck and stuff, and I guess Colin scored it, and I guess you just wanted a second opinion on it, and I told you, I was like, listen, I've never really scored a deer and then had it like took it to get it officially scored. That way I could like kind of see how, far off I am from like and the actual legitimate score. And when you told me Colin scored it at 135, I was like, and especially after seeing the pictures you posted on Facebook, I was like, there's no way that thing scored 135. And then when you were on your way over, I was asking you, I was like, well, how many scoreable points are there on that deer? And you're like, oh, I don't know, like 8, 9 probably. And you get to thinking, you're like, dude, 135-inch 8 is like a big 8. And like, yeah, he might have more, but again, they're broken. Like your brow tine's broken. And after comparing the old trail camera picture to like your rack, it's like he's at least missing like 6 inches off his G2 and probably 3. Yeah, like I would say minimum. I wouldn't even say 12 inches. I'd say like minimum 15 inches that he's missing, which after I got done scoring him, granted, I scored him with a tape measure and a piece of yarn. So that yarn has a little bit of give and stretch to it. But what do we say? Like adding the 15-inch minimum to it, it was like 153 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's so Colin scored him at like 135 and 7/8. Like we scored him like 137, and we were an inch off from Colin pretty much. And I'm like, okay, he's anywhere from 133 to 138. We know that, as he is. But yeah, Colin called me and was like, yeah, we figured he was missing 8 inches. I was like, 8 inches of what? Like he was like,
brow tines?
Off of his horn, I was like, you think he's missing 8 inches? And I said, did you see the picture? And he was like, well, no. And I sent him the picture, and he said, Oh God. Yeah. You got screwed, dude. He was like, you got screwed. And he was like, Carson, Carson Collins' little brother said the same thing of like, man, feel bad for you, but still, I mean, he's still there. I mean, yeah, he's got stuff broke off, but when you see a sprain, like, you're like, okay, he's a good one. I mean, he's a good one.
Well, what's the alternative?
Yeah, makes me sick. It does
pass
feel
a what are you gonna do? Pass a 5.5-year-old plus that's got that frame and is that big because what he used to have? It's like, no, I would. That's what I was telling you before. You're like, well, he's really broke. I don't know if I'd shoot him. And I was like, I would, like he still was what he was. It didn't change anything that he's got something missing, just because it's broke off.
But just to kind of, for the sake of conversation, how much does a deer have to be broke to like for you not to be able to shoot him?
Dude, that's tough because down on the lease, it's kind of like Jake and Christian were really engraved in my like head of, dude, if he's a 5.5, 6.5-year-old deer, I don't care if it's freaking 20 inches. If I start, like, I might shoot him, dude. I mean, that's just like, hey, it's a lot of meat. It's probably gonna taste like crap, but it's a lot of meat. And there's just an old buck of like, what are we just, you also got to think about for management too, because I was sitting there late last night of, you sent me, the photo of this new 8-point, that 8-pointer that we have on camera right now is kind of like, he's like been around. He's been there a time or two, but he hasn't been consistent. Well, guess what? He's starting to get a little more consistent. You know why? I know why.
Another buck's gone.
Bully. Yeah, we killed his bully off of there. So, I mean, I'm sure that deer, I mean, dude, it's tough to say that he's a bully, but I mean, he was over a 200-pound deer, and I'm sure that him and the 11-pointers are bullies. So if you go in there and smack that 11-pointer, what we need to do is turn that freaking camera off because it's going to make us sick to see what comes in after him. But still, it's crazy just to think of, like, I guarantee you he's bullying other deer off. So once they realize, hey, he's gone, we're going to have a lot more deer move in.
You see, I think you to classify that deer as a bully is kind of strong. Like, have you even asked his gender yet, or have you even got that far?
Yeah.
His gender? You mean their gender?
No, but no, that is kind of crazy though how that works, and I don't think a lot of people kind of take that in consideration either. Like, if you shoot a new buck, there's a possibility of a new buck using that resource because there's space and there's less competition for that, and kind of what you were saying, that buck could have been keeping that 8-point out. Do you think the same might like happen for does as well? And I don't mean does keeping other does out, but like, do you think there's a certain point where does could potentially keep, smaller bucks out as well?
100%. I mean, you got to think about it for resource wise too. Of, dude, oh God, it makes me feel dirty. Like I need to take a freaking shower after, when a feeder goes off and you have deer come running. The doe will literally come running in, and you're like, but dude, think about it. If you're a big buck, they're smarter. Some parts they're smarter. Mature bucks are going to be smarter than a doe at some stuff, and a doe is going to be smarter about other stuff. But if you go and you're like dinner time, sun goes down at 6:30, dinner time at 6:20, and you go to the feeder and it's all gone, why would you go? It's gone. I mean, I'm going to the wheat field. So yeah, I don't think necessarily run them off as far as smaller bucks, probably not run them off, but just resource deplete them. So if that makes sense, if that was kind of where you were going with it at all.
Yeah, no. Well, both that and kind of like the territorial space, because like, I mean, where I hunt Northeast Oklahoma, we don't have just an abundant, 10 or 12 5.5-year-old deer running around out here. So you don't really get to see the temperaments and personalities of like these sort of interactions. Because usually if you see a 5.5-year-old buck around here, it's like, you don't care about the personality. You don't care how he treats all the other deer. You're just like, where's my bow and how can I put an arrow in that thing as fast as possible?
And you probably don't have history with him either.
Correct. So, but like, and maybe this is a question for the people watching on YouTube or Apple. And if you know the answer to this, please feel free to DM. But I just wonder if, like, let's say an old doe group, family doe group, and they have that one big monarch doe in there, and she kind of obviously runs the roost in there, whether that be with just the smaller little dink bucks or maybe the new does that try to move in. I wonder if they could potentially, not just resource wise, but potentially run off, those more mature bucks just because she's being a straight up snitch out there, and where that big buck's like, I don't want to deal with this, and goes and lives on the neighbors or something like that.
If you've ever seen a mature buck, they don't. I don't think they give a damn about that. Like
Dude,
when a mature buck comes in, everything else goes, oh, okay, and they like everything starts to step back because
the greatest clip that I didn't even, it wasn't even, it was earlier on in the year last year when I wasn't going to shoot the refrigerator, but the best clip that I've ever got hunting was filming the refrigerator coming in, and everybody, every other deer was like, time to go, I'm done here. And dude, he ran off that was the first thing he did, was circle and run everything off. And it was like the best clip that I've ever gotten. I was like, I'm not even shooting a deer, and this is the best. This is the most fun hunt I've ever been on. I'm not even shooting anything.
It's just a different animal. When you see a deer that's 230 plus, it's just a different animal. And like, that's what I've had drilled into my brain down there. It's like, okay, let's be realistic. We don't hunt in an area in southern Oklahoma where it doesn't get a ton of rain, where a very few bucks get over 150. Like, there could be 100 mature bucks, and there might be a few over 150. This is just like my observation. So when we're going down there, it's like we're just shooting for age, and there's a lot of mature bucks down there, and not a lot of high scoring bucks down there. So that's the way I think about it down there. It's like we're just stewarding for mature bucks.
Is that, and I know we've kind of covered this in the past, but just again for talking's sake, is that the equivalent to kind of having like small pond and like a lot of bass in there? Or is it just one of those things where they just don't grow, regardless of how many
resource limitation?
You think?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's just a resource limitation. There's just not as much, there's not as much good food throughout the year, and there's not water. So you think about like, okay, there might be wheat fields, right? But how much of the year is there a wheat field there? A few months a year? So what do they eat the rest of the year? They're eating browse. Well, none of the browse has good water content or nutrition because there's no freaking rain. Like, so they have a lot of issues with having to bring in like supplemental feed and stuff for cattle down there, because like pastures do not produce like on a per acre basis. Like the amount of grazable acres you have to have down there versus like Northeast Oklahoma, it'd be like you could run 3 times as many cows on the same acreage. Gotcha. That's how different it is in terms of like rain and stuff. So like now it's good because there's not a ton of hunting pressure relative to like other places that we've hunted, so bucks can get to maturity. But at maturity, they're not huge, right? Like a good example is that one that I shot a few weeks ago. I talked to the neighbors who had been hunting their piece for 25 years, and anyways, one of the neighbors told me to pass it, and that we should have passed it. And I said, well, what's the biggest one you guys have ever seen out here? I said, that's about the biggest one we've ever seen. It's the one you shot. And I go, so what do you think, over 25 years, are they just going to get bigger all of a sudden, with no change in the output?
Well, not with neighbors like you.
Exactly. Yeah. Not with neighbors like me. I'm your worst nightmare if you don't want to shoot mature bucks. But yeah, they just don't, it's just like, you got to be realistic with where you're hunting. And what Carol shot is about unbroken. That's about as good as it gets for where you're hunting, and that really is about as good as it gets in the 7 years of sample data that I have. So it's a heck of a buck.
Thank you. Yeah, the river too. You got to remember that, like, all these bucks, what do they have? You're gonna go kill a big buck down there. What do they all have in common? Well, they're freaking right next to the river. If you're not right next to the river, it's probably not deer. If they're not right next to a river or anything like that. So that's where your vegetation is. That's where everything is. And there's not a lot of that river land. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Is, Northeast Oklahoma, you're going to have ponds everywhere. There's lakes, there's river, there's creek, every freaking 500
more cover.
Yeah, here. So yeah, the deer will definitely get bigger, here. It's just the hunter per acreage is just a little different. So game plan, if you sample size of 5,000 acres, you're hunting here compared to there, you're going to kill way bigger deer here, and have probably a lot more of them. The cool thing is down there is they're condensed. You're like, where are they at? Well, they have to be here. If you have a deer, here's where they're at. It's right then and there. A little different hunting up here, but it's what it is. The resources, especially water, is just not there. Other than the river, the water is just not there.
So you've got 3 or 4 years of sample size on seeing bucks down there, Carol. Out of all the mature bucks you've seen, what percentage of them do you think make it to 150 inches?
Well, I've seen in person, I think
Just on camera too.
I mean, on 2 is all that I've seen, and 1 got shot by our neighbor at 4.5. And then this sounds greedy. The deer scored, he's not going to score 150, but he's 150. If he wasn't broke, I'm going to call him 150 inch deer. His frame's 150, so 2. Yeah. I shot the second biggest deer I've ever seen, while hunting. So
yeah, you can't beat that. So do you think with the lack of water within the forage and all that stuff, I mean, do you think that has anything to do with the broken tines that you see down there? Because I've never heard a deer fight out when I'm hunting, mainly because, I mean, it's pressured ground, right? Like usually if you hear something resembling that, it's probably another dude in a tree.
Yeah.
So, but both of you guys have heard deer fighting down there. And I know I've talked to Payton a lot about this, where, he'll see probably 5 or 6 bucks at the feeder, and the majority of them are broke. And the trail cameras kind of prove that too, if you go back and look through the previous years and stuff. So do you think that has anything to do with like all of them being broken up, or what's y'all's take on that?
Bow hunting is a game of confidence, and the last thing that you want to be thinking about when you're at full draw on a giant buck this fall is, I hope this broadhead does its job. I prefer a reliable, fixed blade broadhead that's tough, flies great, and penetrates deeply no matter the arrow setup. And that's why us guys at the Hunter's Advantage shoot Vantage Point archery broadheads. And just a few weeks ago in September, I laid down my first bull elk with the VPA Omegas. In my mind, there's no reason to risk messing with a broadhead that can have a mechanical failure when you can get a super tough, reliable broadhead that's sharp and flies great, and you don't have to worry about the thing failing on you. And if you needed any other reason to choose VPA, they're 100% made in America. To check them out, go to vparchery.com and make sure to use code HA10 at checkout for 10% off your next pack of broadheads. Once again, that's vparchery.com and make sure you use code HA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
I don't know, scientifically, they are a lot more active, and you got to remember, I'm going to go with just my gut feeling of it being territorial. Territorial is why they're probably broke. Of like, you have 100 and something acres up here in Northeast. Well, your deer probably aren't going to all be kissing each other's butt right next to the river. Going back on that, I haven't had a hunt this year sitting in there where I didn't hear fighting. Like, dude, grunting, fighting, and gosh, let me tell you, I am so far off of being able to grunt and do banging the old horns together, doing some rattling. That gives you an eye-opening experience after you really hear it person. But I think that's probably why they're so broke. Another note is, back there where we hunt, you have 2 weeks to kill a deer before he's broke. First 2 weeks of October, after the first 2 weeks, he's going to be broke. There is probably not a deer in there that doesn't have something broke off right now. So
I think it's less punting pressure, personally.
Yeah.
I think those deer act like deer actually do. I think it's twofold. I think it is something in the nutrition, like in the the density of the antler. I think that's definitely part of it. But then the other part of it is the hunting pressure. Deer are they're not afraid to fight, because when they hear a fight, it's probably real. It's probably not another dude rattling him in. So I think that there's a lot of mature bucks in a really condensed area down there, and I think they lay down way more sign, and I think they go at it big.
So they're not timid to fight.
They're not timid at all, dude.
Gotcha.
That day I shot my buck a few weeks ago, I heard him fighting another buck, and he came in and he had chipped, like his G4 was chipped and like his main beam was chipped, and I was like, oh, thank God, like he didn't lose his eye guards. And then an 8-point came in that day, and he was like missing both his eye guards. I was like, okay, cool. He was the loser. Yeah, dude, it's nuts. Like, they just act like deer should,
Yeah, Tanis was even grabbing the horns to my deer and like bending them, and I was like, "Hey, quit that, dude! What are you doing?" He's like, "Look how brittle they are." I was like, "Quit doing that." But yeah, that's cool.
I don't want to have to hit you, okay?
Yeah. You break one of those, I'm gonna take it, stab you right in the freaking stomach with it. But But yeah, I don't know. Probably because it could very well could be because of the water and just the forage is just what they have.
Yeah.
So you ended up running an arrow through a deer and getting a full pass through. What's that feel like?
I didn't want to sit here and emphasize. Let me start with this. I went in this year saying, look, you shoot a doe and you're in there stinking stuff up, it probably is not going to be good for your buck hunting. I get that. But I was like, I am not shooting a buck until I shoot a doe this year. Not doing it. You can't convince me. Very first hunt that I went on, I believe, or the second hunt of the year that I went on, a good buddy named Nate let me go in, and he was like, I got so many freaking does, just shoot as many of them as you want. And right off the rip, I started off the year hot and smoked one right in the heart at like 20, 21, 22 yards and thought, okay.
It's
I
possible. It's possible
I
to get a deer down. That's cool.
So freaking bad to where I needed it. So then on a lease, got a full pass through on her, went down to the lease and shot a doe, 2 weeks before that, got a full pass through on her right in the freaking heart. She, the first doe ran 40, 50 yards. That second doe ran 20 yards. And once that buck came around, I was like, don't get me wrong, my heart was pounding, but I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but when you get pulled back and like side on them, you kind of like lose all focus and have this, I wouldn't say blackout, but like almost like a blackout stage of like, I am so tunnel vision right now. And I just didn't have that. It was just like, all right, pull back. All right, I've been shooting good. He's at 20 something yards. I don't even know how far he is. He's between 20 and 25. So I just put it for 23 and just put it, right there. Hit the trigger, as some would say in the comments, harder than Mike Tyson. I've been that twice. Punched the heck out of that trigger as hard as I could. And once it slid through him like butter, I was like, dude, let's freaking go. Let's go.
But something that changed is the 2 deer that you shot last year, you shot both of them. I think maybe both of them high, one of them high for sure. This year, every shot that you had was like heart, like 1/3 the way up. Have you changed the way that you aimed, or does it just happen that that's how it happened this year?
I've been putting it a little lower. I've been putting it right below where the very top of that leg comes in. I mean, just barely above the white hair. I'm not going to drop my bow. I'm not going to. Knock on wood. But I tell myself that one literally million times. Do not drop this freaking bow after you shoot. So I start aiming probably, I would say, 2 inches lower than I normally do. Paddle's the one I shot in the butt. That was just stupid. The refrigerator, I was aiming, right towards, I would say, the shoulder. I mean, that deer just ducks. I mean, I go back and watch the video every once in a while, and I'm like, yep, that makes me sick. I mean, he ducked 4 or 5 inches. No doubt it was going to be a double lung, but it turned into maybe a high single lung. But yeah, to answer your question, I do aim a little lower, but not anything like, I'm not going to put it below a deer. I'm not going to put it on the belly. Like if they drop a little bit, great. They can drop, 3 or 4 inches. Now, if their belly touches the ground, it is what it is. That just crap the end,
But you had 3 for 3 of like, oh yeah, that one's making it nowhere, of those type of shots.
It also makes a difference too when you aim a little farther. I shoot a mechanical, so I no longer.
Ooh,
I no longer shoot a fixed blade. So I have to be careful about the shoulder, but luckily I've hit 2 shoulders and still made it all the way through both of them. But that was a limiting thing too when that buck came in this year was I'm limited on shot. If he's quartered to me, I can't do this. I'm not going to. So that makes a difference, but also at the same time, the shot placement has just been, I've had a little luck on my side. You're going to move around a little bit. Of course, I've got a buck right in front of me. Stuff's going to happen. So I had a little bit of luck as far as a shoot wise.
You also shot 2 deer before you shot a buck, which I think helps tremendously.
Makes a huge difference. Getting in your comfort zone instead of going out there and just like, well, if one comes in, Hail Mary shot, it is what it is. I'll shoot my bow. Dude, the target is so much different. It is so much different. If you can hit a doe, by God, you can hit anything because their bodies are half the size and they move twice as much. So when the mature deer, a mature buck comes in, you're like, wow, it is literally twice the size. Like as far as height, girth, everything. Of like, dude, it is twice the size of a big doe.
So you end up getting that buck down, but before you were kind of shaky on like your whole hunting thing. Like you were probably one good gust of wind from literally selling your bow, your saddle, everything that you own, right? Like did this kind of
Yeah. How do you sell?
did this kind of like revamp that hunting fire inside of you, or are you just like as soon as goose season starts you're gone?
Yeah, Shelby and I, we've been hunting up here next, close to the house, and after getting him down, I don't mind going. Like, you need it. Like, people say, "Oh, I need it." No, seriously, people like shoot a doe, do something. You've got to do something to get the fire back, started. Whether it be because I was like, dude, I'm going to bird hunting. I'm tired of this. I'm going bird hunting. Just stuff's not working out. By golly, I might not have the best luck with bird hunting, but at least I'll get something. At least I'll get to pull the trigger.
I'm gonna kill a duck.
Yeah, you gotta kill a duck. That's the cool thing is like going on a duck hunt. If you do your homework, scout, and all that, you're like, well, I'm gonna kill something. It might not be a lot, but something. I've got food to eat if I decide to eat them tomorrow night. But yeah, it was well needed. Like
Fire enough to go back down southeast or no?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, the fire ain't that hot. All right.
It's embering. It's not burning.
The fire is dwindling down. But yeah, I would 100%. Man, when we went a few years ago, when I had got the buck down on the lease, like what was it, the second weekend, Christian went and killed the 6x7. I went and got that funky buck. And dude, my hunting was I was like, dude, I can sleep in. I don't care. I got a buck down. I do not care. I skipped like half the mornings, when we went down to the mountain store. I'm like, dude, I'll hunt the evenings. I don't care. The pressure, the monkey is off my back. I don't care as much. I'm just still thrilled to death. And yeah, it's the game has changed.
There is something about that, like having a good buck down, before November's even over, and you're just like, all right, like it isn't as serious. And like, I know there's people that say, oh, you shouldn't feel pressured into shooting something or whatever. Well, it's not like, I know we have this podcast and like YouTube and stuff, and it's not necessarily that, but just mentally wise, it's like, it's a relief once you do actually get one down.
I haven't pressured into shooting something, dude. I could have shot 40 freaking bucks, by then. It's not that I'm pressured into shooting something. It's just like I'm getting tired of the right freaking crap not stepping out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not pressured into shooting anything. It's not like I got to kill something.
There has to be a reward at the end every once in a while. Like you spend all the time shed hunting, spend all the time scouting, you spend all the time running cameras. It's like, I want the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like I don't hunt now. Don't get me wrong. I hunt for my enjoyment. Eventually I hunt to kill something, right? Or else I'm just nature watching. I just wouldn't bring my bow.
Yeah.
Like you got to get one down every once in a while, or else you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I making podcasts about this? Why am I doing YouTube videos about this? Like you got to have the pot of the gold at the end of the rainbow every once in a while. And I think what we've learned is the best way to do that is to have good options, have good places to go. And I think one thing I'm learning is like, I'm going to spend more time on access than I am like, just everything else going forward, because you can put 10% effort into the right access and have a good result, or you can put in 200% effort and have, not have a guarantee. So it's like, you got to have that payoff every once in a while.
Feels awesome. There's literally no better feeling. I mean, when stuff finally works out after not working out, I mean, it's awesome.
So what's next for you? Like you planning on hunting public? You going to Shelby's? Like what's up?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I figured luck's on my side. So next step's probably down to Buffalo Run and try my luck on the second. Oh, you meant hunting. Yeah, we'll go down. We're gonna go up to some land that we have here by the house, and there's a few. I complained to her of like, dude, we travel all around, spend so much time and money doing all this, like going to public, going down to the lease and all that. We threw up some cameras, somewhere over here where we have by the house. I'm like, there's bigger deer right here. This place is within a mile from the house, and there are more bigger deer here than where I've been hunting ever.
You're so full of crap. Let's see the pin. Let's see it real quick.
No way, Jose.
Well, that's awesome. No, that's a dandy of a buck, and then so that's 2 out of 6 so far this year. Or I guess if you count Nebraska and Kansas, then we still got a little bit more work to do. But
Yeah, there's work to do. There's work to be done. We just need to complete the trifecta. We got the cold front coming next week, and I think Jake's headed out on his snowmobile to try to get it done.
Yeah, Jake. So what's the plan? I mean, walk or what?
there's really no game plan. I've never been to that lease before, right? So I mean, we got a good cold front. We got the first north wind since you've been in there, Carol, and that 8-point showed up. I've been talking to Abby about it, and I'm just like, man, like I know there's going to be that shock factor of that funky buck that you were talking about. You know, he's old. He probably needs shot, but also at the same time, that 11 still running amok in there. And now we had that new 8-point come in there. And I'm just like, I don't think I can shoot that 6-point as of right now, but I know it's a decision that needs to be made before I go in because that funky one's been the most consistent yet. So with that being said, it's like I really got to hold strong.
You're going to be like,
I know.
Hold out. When he comes in, you're like, oh my God, that is awesome. And you're going to freaking smoke. I almost guarantee
I don't know, man.
He's a mounter. So he's crazy. But the 11-pointer is a good deer. I mean, he's as beautiful and as like just wow, what you look for in a deer as you can get.
That 8-point's kind of really tripped my trigger here recently. Like he's pretty damn heavy. Like if he had like a couple more inches on his eye guards, he would be like the perfect 8-point. Like I don't know how much more you could ask for it. I mean, because he has the beams, he has the tines, he has, a little bit better mass than down there, and his body looks huge. Now, granted, I don't know what a big body looks like, but I don't know.
He's going to be a mid 130s 8-point, is he not? What do you?
I don't know. That's what I was asking you guys because the second I seen him on trail camera, that's why I text you guys. I'm like, hey, is this a shooter? Because I'm not familiar with body sizes. I'm used to 125, 150 pound bodies, not 225 to 250. And it's like, so I know that kind of has a little bit of bias when it comes to trying to guesstimate the rack. So I don't know.
I think the eye guards are going to be the thing that doesn't keep him to be mid 130s. If he had a set of 5-inch eye guards, I'd be like, oh yeah, for sure. Got good beams, got everything else though. Everything but the eye guards he's got, beams, good threes on an 8-point is a good indicator.
Yeah.
Score, good beams, good beams.
Threes, what do you normally, your 8-pointer on your threes, you're going to get
4-5 inches.
4 inches. And you got these things are like 6 to probably 6, 7 inch. Yeah.
Yeah. They're long.
Yeah. No, he's good. Like, trust me, I know I'm kind of talking like a big shot. I'm not too picky, trust me, but I just don't know if it's because I know that funky one's probably going to be one of the first to step out, but I just
there is no making a decision beforehand. You'll see it like ground check.
Yeah, did you either grab your bow or you don't? I mean, that's like you grab your bow or you don't.
It's a good problem to have. Like I've honestly never been in the situation where I'm just like, debating on whether to shoot this mature buck or not. And so like it's a good feeling to have, and it probably sounds crazy from the outside looking in, but
privilege.
Damn it, it feels good to be in, let me tell you.
It does.
But
got a lot more season left. Yeah, I think Carol and I are going to head back to Kansas at some point. We still got a muzzleloader tag that's good for rifle, so plenty of more hunt talks coming everybody's way. But congrats, Carol, on a good buck. I mean, I would have passed, but a super nice buck.
Too broken up for me. I wouldn't have shot.
Yeah.
Maybe shed season we'll find a couple goodies.
Yeah, I took him in last year. I was like, hey, how long? Like 2-3 weeks, and he was like, try like 8 months. I was like, I'll give you a $20 tip to get him done next week.
Yeah.
No, really. I'm pumped, dude. I'm pumped to get him back. I will say one downfall about hunting there is, you kill a mountain deer, an 130-inch mountain deer. Like, oh my God, he's 145, 150. You shoot a 220-pound deer, you're like, oh, 120, and they score better than what you think, but it doesn't give it that like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Doesn't look like it's mounted on a doe form.
Yeah, exactly.
So what form did you pick out?
6900, the typical,
1600.
the 69
That's
typical.
that one.
Yeah, you can't, dude. You can't go wrong with them. I think I've got two 6900s now, and then one's. I don't know what the other one is, but
I think that's what I'm going to do on my buck. It's a 6900. Just straight up. Yeah, just like a,
Yeah, that'll look good too.
you can't go wrong. Well,
Well, fellas,
I think that's it. We appreciate everybody for listening. Make sure to leave us a rating and review if you guys are enjoying the episodes. We're trying to grow our video podcast like listenership on Spotify. So if you guys listen on Spotify and you know other people that do, make sure to share the episode with them. And we got some more YouTube videos coming out for you guys soon. So I just recorded one before this podcast. So we appreciate you guys listening. We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Jesus loves you.
Bye.